I've seen tropical storms, brave tropical storms, trees down, but never seen a flood like this, never.
Would you look at that? Golly.
Tonight, a slow-moving storm is packing a deadly punch. It is already being blamed for at least 4 deaths in Florida and is now creeping into surrounding states. I'm Valerie Castro in for Gadi Schwartz, and this is Stay Tuned Now. Debby made landfall as a Category 1 hurricane early this morning in Florida's Big Bend, flooding entire communities. Governor Ron DeSantis says 2 of the 4 people killed were children. The storm surge there rose as much as 6 feet in some cities. In other places like the Sarasota-Bradenton area, they saw a new record for the wettest day ever. All that rain leaving communities with catfish showing up in driveways and roads so flooded people are getting around on canoes or rafts. But where roads are not flooded, slick conditions are making them life-threatening. A semi-truck driver died after losing control on a wet road, driving right over a bridge in Tampa. A mom and her son also died in a car crash due to wet roads in Dixie County. And in Levy County, a 13-year-old was killed after a tree fell on a home. While out at sea, the Coast Guard rescued 2 boaters who got stuck due to Debby's strong winds. A state of emergency is in effect as hundreds of thousands remain without power in Florida. Debby has the potential to bring up to 2.5 feet of rainfall to parts of the southeast over the next few days, especially given how slowly it is moving. We have team coverage tonight. NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns will have the forecast. Jesse Kirsch is in Florida. But first, let's go to NBC News correspondent Priscilla Thompson in Savannah, Georgia. Priscilla, what are conditions looking like where you are right now?
Yeah, Valerie, so we are in between rain bands right now, so we're getting a bit of a break from the rain, but it has been coming down all day. Just a short while ago, this road was already starting to flood, and these conditions are only going to get worse and more dangerous as this storm really moves inland here. And let me just tell you a little bit of what we're expecting. Officials here are saying that this is going to be a once in a 1,000 years storm. We're talking about 10 to 20 inches of rain with some localized totals as high as up to 30 inches, which could lead to catastrophic flooding. Already there is a flash flooding warning in effect for this area, along with a 10 p.m. curfew. And that is because as these roads begin to flood, they do not want folks out on these roads. They want to make sure that emergency responders can get where they need to and that folks are able to stay inside and stay safe. And the concerning part in all of this is that this storm could potentially stall over this area for up to 3 days, just dumping that historic rainfall and contributing to what could be potentially deadly flooding. And I will also note that we have been hearing the tornado sirens going off earlier today when there was a tornado warning in effect. So that is another possible threat as a result of Tropical Storm Debby. Valerie?
And Priscilla, with all that rain, officials are saying flooding could happen in places that normally don't get high water. Are people there prepared?
Yeah, officials have said to take this seriously, and we have seen people doing that. We were at a sandbagging site for hours today, and it was packed with dozens of people coming, taking as many sandbags as they could to try to protect their homes. I had an opportunity to speak with some of those folks about the storm that was headed this way, and I want to share a bit of those conversations.
Seen areas of our neighborhood flood before with small storms, so.
And this is a big one.
This is a big one for 4 days, as you say. Like that's a lot of water.
What do you think you're going to wake up to tomorrow morning?
I'm scared of what I'll wake up to. I'm hoping I don't wake up to a house full of water. I really do.
And we cannot talk about this historic storm without talking about the climate connection. It is because of the warming atmosphere that these storms are able to hold, and the atmosphere is holding so much more water, and we're seeing these historic amounts of rainfall. And it is also why we are seeing some of these storm systems stalling over these areas for longer periods of time. It is what our climate unit refers to as an atmospheric traffic jam, where the storms are not able to move on because of our changing climate, unfortunately. Valerie?
All right, Priscilla Thompson for us in Georgia tonight. Priscilla, thank you. As we mentioned, Debby left a destructive and deadly path in Florida's Big Bend before heading north. NBC News correspondent Jesse Kirsch is joining us now with a closer look at the aftermath there. Jesse?
Hey, Valerie, we're in Keaton Beach, Florida, an area that was hard hit in Hurricane Idalia last year and was similarly, again, in the area that Debbie was moving over earlier. I can tell you from walking around and driving around this community both today and yesterday before we had landfall that it appears that damage here has been minimal. But hours after landfall, take a look at the wind still gusting in this community. In fact, I'm wearing the goggles right now as much as anything just because I'm worried about any sand that might blow in my face. Not per se because of hurricane conditions, because Debbie has become a tropical storm. That's a downgrade in the strength of the winds, but I can tell you that the threat is still very much there. What we typically talk about with hurricanes is the concern about the wind gusts and the storm surge especially. But with this storm, what we're really paying attention to is the concern around flooding. There could be as much as around 30 inches of rain in some parts of the southeast over the next several days, and that is really a concern. We are talking about Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina, all three of those states really in the bullseye right now. All three states' governors have declared states of emergency. And back where we are now, we had landfall hours ago, and things have calmed down in this region. But I've seen even hours later some streets that have had flooding, that have still had water across the roadways, although some of that water seems to be receding. These conditions have been dangerous, and they've also, unfortunately, proven to be deadly. We have heard of at least 4 deaths in the midst of all this stormy weather. And again, there's still a lot more ahead. Valerie?
Let's now turn to NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns. Bill, what is the latest track for Debbie?
The track hasn't changed too much. The timing is a little altered, and we're also watching, a chance for maybe more re-intensification once it gets off the coast than previous. So let me explain. Here's the center of the storm now crossed over into Georgia, and it's heading somewhere maybe tonight over Brunswick, Georgia, or maybe just south of Brunswick, Georgia. And the important part of that is that keeps Savannah on the north side of the circulation, and all the heavy rain isn't over the center. It's to the north of it. And that, if Savannah stays in that later tonight, which they could, and then right along the coast of South Carolina tomorrow all the way up to Charleston, that's where we're going to have these epic amounts of rain. They're just going to be in that really intense rain band for a long period of time. And Savannah's already in a flash flood warning, and this storm is just beginning. Earlier today, the worst flooding was around Live Oak, Florida. Water through downtown. They were under a flash flood emergency at a certain point. And now the latest from the Hurricane Center just got the new update in. We're not worried about the winds anymore. We're not going to really knocking power out with 45-mile-per-hour winds. But we want the movement to keep up. This is slow, 6 miles per hour. But at least it's moving. It's not stalled. So we just need to keep this moving to try to minimize the amount of rainfall we're going to get in every area. But the forecast does kind of bring it out off the coast, south of Savannah, and kind of loops it back here. When it does that loop, that heavy rain will be somewhere between Savannah and Charleston for an extended period of time, maybe 24 hours, maybe 36 hours. That's how you get that 30-inch rainfall potential when a storm stalls or does a loop like this. As it's over the water, if this comes off a little further south, that's going to stay over the water longer than was expected. The Hurricane Center right now has the intensity getting up to about 60-mile-per-hour winds. So that's getting to the point where we could have some power problems with that second landfall on Thursday, somewhere around Georgetown, maybe Myrtle Beach or Wilmington. So those areas, you have to watch this closely. It wouldn't take much more to get up to a Category 1 hurricane again. It's not going to, devastate the area. But all of a sudden, it's another thing you have to worry about instead of just the rain. You do have to worry about some of the wind. Rainfall predictions, pretty epic. That's Savannah to Charleston to Myrtle Beach, somewhere in there. That's where we have the chance for the 2 feet, maybe 2.5 feet. And then we have 2 events. We have one tomorrow night with just thunderstorms, like regular thunderstorms, and then Debbie behind that Friday, Saturday. So even the Northeast Valley has a chance for pretty significant rain.
Wow, we know Debbie is an early season hurricane, and Priscilla Thompson mentioned this in some of her reporting. What are the climate connections that influenced how intense this has gotten?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of them. So the first thing is the water temperature. That's the most important. That's the fuel for the storms. That's the #1 thing that we look at. And the water temperatures are record warm. So this storm was likely slightly warmer than it would have been without climate change. And then because of climate change, probably a little bit stronger. And also there's more moisture in the atmosphere, more humidity. So the amount of rainfall with this storm is, more than what it should be. And this is one of the connections that, a study showed that for every 1 degree warmer that the ocean is, it holds about 4% more moisture. So if the water was about 5 degrees warmer than it should be, before climate change, the 5 times 4, about 20% more rainfall out of this storm than you would expect previously. And the other thing is with slower moving storms, that's one of the connections with our atmosphere, more blocking. So that means the high pressure and low pressure in the storms aren't moving as fast as they should be. Slower storms can produce a lot more rain. So I just told you this one was moving at 6 miles per hour. 5 miles per hour has a chance of max potential up to 30 inches of rain. That's how we get that number. If it's moving at 10 miles per hour, it's 25 inches. If it's moving at 20 miles per hour, it's 5 inches. So there's that connection there with the speed of the storm and also how warm our oceans are.
On the other side of the country, we still have those wildfires burning. What are those conditions looking like?
I know. It hasn't gone away, right? All those warm temperatures, too. I mean, it's 111 in Phoenix. It's 111 in Vegas right now. Pacific Northwest did cool off a little bit. And, the August returning to normal. We're going to try to get it there. But anywhere in yellow is still above normal. Tomorrow, Vegas is 114. I mean, that's incredibly hot for Vegas. Not as hot as a couple weeks ago, but typically in the summer, that's like the hottest you get. And then as we get towards Wednesday, things do quiet down. And even as we head towards the extended forecast, Denver's into the 80s, Salt Lake City kind of mid-90s. So at least we're not going to be boiling. It's still going to be hot, but it won't be boiling.
All right.
So that's better for the firefighters out there trying to control all these blazes.
Busy week all across the country. All right, Bill Cairns, thank you. Vice President Kamala Harris is set to officially become the Democratic presidential nominee any minute. The DNC is looking to solidify that decision during a virtual roll call tonight. Now it is up to Harris to finish filling out her ticket. Sources telling NBC News that the vice president is expected to reveal her VP pick just before a campaign rally in Philadelphia tomorrow. That's the plan for now, at least. This is the short list. They've all been vetted by the Harris campaign, and apparently those highlighted in yellow, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, and Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, each had separate meetings with Harris just yesterday. That's according to sources familiar with the matter. But the question remains, who best fits Harris's criteria? NBC White House correspondent Aaron Gilchrist joins us now. Aaron, let's start there. What exactly is Vice President Harris looking for in her own VP pick?
Well, Valerie, we can tell you that officially we will see Vice President Harris and her running mate on the ground in Philadelphia at 5:30 tomorrow. That's the time we've now been told this rally will happen. That's from the vice president's office here at the White House. And this process has been one that has been obviously rushed. President Biden announced that he was running for re-election back in April of last year. And it's only been 2 weeks since Vice President Harris became the top of the ticket. And in that time, she's had to make this decision. She's seen this vetting process go forward. And now we understand from sources familiar with how this process has played out that she's looking for someone who can demonstrate competence, someone who shares her core values, and someone with whom she has chemistry. You talked about the three men who came here to Washington, went to the vice president's residence at the Naval Observatory to sit down with her and have that face-to-face meeting, or those three separate face-to-face meetings with her, so that she could both talk to them about where they stand on issues and talk to them about the things that are important to her. We understand she's looking for a running mate from sources familiar who might be able to help her with the small percentage of voters that are still sort of outstanding. Potentially, we're talking about swing voters here. We're talking about suburban women who may not yet be on board with the Harris campaign at this point. She's also looking for a running mate who would appeal to some of the people that President Biden has drawn support from, who might be a little iffy on supporting her at this point. And so those are some of the qualities, Valerie, we understand that Vice President Harris is looking for in a running mate, somebody who can help her win in November and then help her govern should she win.
And you mentioned that rally. It's tomorrow in Philadelphia, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Governor Shapiro is the VP pick, right?
No, you're right. It doesn't necessarily mean that. We've understood for at least a few days now that that city had been chosen for this event, the beginning of this battleground state tour that the vice president and her running mate will be going on. It had been chosen before really this process got started, before Governor Shapiro was sort of on the short list here. And quite frankly, I can tell you just from experience and understanding how some of these campaign events worked for the Biden White House and the Biden-Harris team when it was that. Philadelphia is the closest city in a battleground state to Washington, D.C., and so it's a quick trip. They can literally, the Harris campaign can take as much of the time as they need tomorrow to actually roll out this running mate, to announce who that person is going to be, and then they can get up to Philadelphia pretty quickly so that we can see those two people together before they head out to these several other battleground states. We know that Georgia was removed from the list of battleground states that they will hit this week because of the tropical storm that Savannah has been dealing with over the course of today. And so we will expect to see them in Philadelphia and then on out into several states, ending in Nevada on Saturday. Valerie?
All right, by this time tomorrow, we should know who is joining her on that ticket. Aaron Gilchrist, thank you. Following breaking news right now, a Virginia man has been charged with threatening to kill Vice President Harris. That's according to a criminal complaint. Investigators say a man named Frank Carrillo used an alias to post violent threats about Harris on a conservative website, including threats to shoot, stab, or burn her alive. He is said to have also made threats targeting President Biden and FBI Director Christopher Wray. The suspect was in court today and has another hearing scheduled for Thursday. Meanwhile, former President Trump is keeping to his own scheduled events. Today, he sat down with a controversial influencer, Aiden Ross. The popular streamer was banned from Twitch last year for saying homophobic slurs and showing racist and anti-Jewish messages on his chat. The 90-minute interview was held at Mar-a-Lago and broadcast over the platform Kick. Topics ranged from global conflicts to the crisis at the southern border. Then Ross gave the former president a very expensive gift.
Should I open it?
You should open it and then show the camera.
That's a great watch, actually. Good company. There's good company.
You like Rolex?
Should I show that to the audience?
Yeah, they can see it.
The interview comes as Trump has been on the attack against Georgia's governor. NBC News correspondent Vaughn Hilliard has that part of the story. Vaughn?
Hey, Valerie, look, Georgia's going to be a crucial state this November. It, you could say, even surprisingly fell into Democratic hands in 2020 when Joe Biden beat Donald Trump in the southern state by just under 12,000 votes. It was really a turn of events, Georgia along with Arizona, where that really turned heads about the implications and the impact that Donald Trump has had on the Republican Party, because it was not just even the presidential race, but it was also the 2 U.S. Senate seats. You'll recall that same year, Georgians voting for the likes of Raphael Warnock and Jon Ossoff, the 2 Democrats. And suddenly, Georgia was turning, apparently, somewhat, at least, blue. And this is where Brian Kemp, the governor there, is such an interesting and intriguing figure, because this weekend in Atlanta, at Donald Trump's rally there in that packed venue, he railed against and attacked Brian Kemp, the governor, who is undoubtedly, he's popular there. He, in 2022, he actually faced a Republican primary challenger that was endorsed by Donald Trump. And in that primary, he beat the Trump-backed challenger by 52 percentage points. And then in the November general election, he beat Democrat Stacey Abrams by 7.5 percentage points. Again, compare that to Donald Trump losing the state of Georgia to Joe Biden in 2020. And so his attacks on Brian Kemp turned a lot of heads among anti-Trump Republicans who have questioned whether Donald Trump was going to tactfully try to win back over some of those independents or reticent conservatives. But he apparently this weekend, less than 100 days out from the general election, making the decision not to do that. And of course, it takes you back to 2020. Why he was so upset with Brian Kemp was not because of any specific policies, but it's because Brian Kemp certified Georgia's election results that said that Donald Trump had, in fact, lost the election here. And so the question is, does that have 2024 polling ramifications just less than 100 days from now in the election against Kamala Harris? Right now, polling shows Georgia a very tight race in one of the 7 main battleground states. Valerie?
Okay, Vaughn, thank you. Wall Street suffered its worst day in nearly 2 years today. The Dow Jones tumbled more than 1,000 points, while both the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq dropped at least 3%. Global markets took a dive, too, with Japan's Nikkei index suffering its worst decline since the 1987 crash on Black Monday. The culprit? It appears to be anxiety over the U.S. jobs report that came out last week, which has led some analysts to fear the possibility of a U.S. recession. Let's bring in our business and data correspondent, Brian Chung. Brian, please break this down for us. How bad is this globally, and is this an indicator of a recession in the future?
Yeah, a lot of people who opened up their 401ks this morning were probably like, whoa, this is not what you want to see in your retirement funds. But look, markets do things on, from a day-to-day basis, and today it seemed to be a bad day. And the real nexus for this was that jobs report, as you mentioned, that came in last week. That 4.3% unemployment rate, that's been on the rise. It was around 3.4, 3.5% around a year ago. So there is some concern that, okay, as the Federal Reserve has been holding those interest rates high, well, are those borrowing costs incentivizing businesses to slow the pace of hiring? If that does happen, that could be one of the first steps to a recession, although I want to point out, Valerie, we are not in a recession right now. There's an official organization that's in charge of declaring it. It's called the NBER. They have not declared the U.S. in a recession.
So just last week, the Federal Reserve kept interest rates the same, 5.25 to 5.5%. What happens now? Could the Fed step in?
Yeah, well, you know, as I was mentioning, the Federal Reserve is kind of partly to blame for what we've been seeing in the labor market side, which suggests, okay, well, maybe they have to change the interest rate policies that they've had to basically make sure that the unemployment rate doesn't spike from here. So that's why you've had some expectation going into the Fed's next meeting, which is not going to be until September 18th, that they could cut interest rates. But after the market reaction today, not only are people saying, okay, we expect them to cut interest rates in that meeting, we expect them to cut interest rates by even more aggressively than we had thought. The Federal Reserve usually moves in increments of 0.25 percentage point. Now you have market pricing an overwhelming chance that they'll do a 0.5 percentage point decrease. That would be pretty welcome news for people that are trying to get some relief in terms of those mortgage rates and also their credit card rates. In fact, mortgage rates we're already seeing come down based off of those expectations.
All right, we'll see what happens in September there. In other business news, a federal judge ruled today that, quote, Google is a monopolist and it has acted as one to maintain its monopoly. It has violated Section 2 of the Sherman Act. Tell us what that's all about.
Yeah, keep me pretty busy today. But Google facing this antitrust ruling from a D.C. court where they ruled that Google's basically their search and also their text ad businesses do violate antitrust laws. The judge in the case, as you mentioned, describing it as a monopoly. But there were 38 states and territories on this suit. This is a big win for them. The DOJ and also the White House even taking a victory lap this afternoon in regards to this. But we have to remember we can probably we are likely to expect an appeal. Google has said so in a statement. They also said, quote, this decision recognizes that Google offers the best search engine, but concludes that we shouldn't be allowed to make it easily available. So again, this is not the end of this. And if we take a look at the 2001 Microsoft antitrust case, they also appealed that, even though they ultimately did settle out of court with quite a number of remedies, including, for example, trying to more easily take care of some of their software.
Okay. We appreciate your expertise, Brian. Thank you.
Yep.
Don't go anywhere. We're just getting started. Up next, new details about final moments of Sonya Massey's life, what the deputy who fired the fatal shot claims was happening before he opened fire. Plus, intensifying violence in the UK, how false claims about that deadly stabbing attack are fueling violence, what leaders are doing to calm the tensions. And later this hour, the next generation effort to harness wind energy, how infrastructure is being put to the test. Our Maura Barrett heads to Maine for tonight's Future of Everything.
This wave pool can mimic a storm in any ocean across the world. Coming up, we'll tell you how researchers are using it as a stress test for innovative offshore wind technology.
Welcome back. Here are some of the other headlines we're watching tonight. Elon Musk's Political Action Committee could be in some hot water. 5 different secretaries of state are pressing Musk to fix the chatbot for his platform X after it shared false information, suggesting Vice President Kamala Harris was ineligible to appear on the 2024 presidential ballot. And more specifically, Michigan officials are investigating the PAC's efforts to collect voter data. That PAC is supporting former President Donald Trump. Tulsa, Oklahoma is announcing a new commission to study reparations for victims and descendants of the 1921 race massacre, where a white mob killed 300 black people. A review will look at financial reparations in the city, including things like a housing equity program. A former Trump lawyer is flipping sides in the Arizona fake electors case. Jenna Ellis says she now plans to cooperate with prosecutors, saying they will drop charges against her in return. Ellis and 17 other defendants were indicted on federal charges for an alleged scheme to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Ellis originally pleaded not guilty. It looks like a former Kansas police chief will face criminal charges over a newsroom raid. You may remember last year when officers raided a local paper, the Marion County Record, alleging it had committed a number of crimes. Turns out a report shows the police conducted a poor investigation. It was not immediately clear if prosecutors will seek a felony or misdemeanor charge against the police chief. And Delta and CrowdStrike are playing the blame game. The tech company says they are not responsible for Delta losing $500 million during that massive computer outage last month, while CrowdStrike is pointing the finger at Delta, saying the airline actually turned down on-site assistance during the outage. A former sheriff's deputy charged with the murder of Sonya Massey says that he thought she, quote, was going to kill me. This according to a report that was written 3 days after the shooting. Let's bring in NBC News correspondent Antonia Hilton, who has more. So, Antonia, when it comes to former Deputy Grayson, his field report says he feared for his life. What more can you tell us?
That's right. This field report is basically a description, his best recollection of how everything went down when he entered Sonya Massey's apartment. And really what it focuses on is this moment that people have seen in the video where he is exchanging words with her. It's incredibly tense. At points, he's using expletives, shouting commands at her. And he says he was fearful that she had some kind of boiling or very hot substance in a pot and that she could throw that at him. He says that he shot her in the face and ultimately killed her in the moment when she was going to throw that liquid. But I think it's really important for people to know here that while we have a good amount of footage of this, what we don't have is actually his body camera footage until after he shot and killed Massey. And so there are parts of the sort of TikTok here, the timeline that he lays out in this report, that we can't confirm through video.
There is body camera footage from another officer who was there, another deputy. So we know that there were other people there. They also wrote up field reports. Do their accounts of what happened match what Grayson had in his?
Well, what they really do is actually add more insight into some of what happens in the aftermath. There are a lot of deputies who came to meet him later after all of this unfolded who described hearing him say shots fired, for example, over the radio, and then coming to meet him, who described coming into her apartment and seeing that there was blood everywhere, that water was still running in the sink, those kinds of details. But they don't directly contradict. What we do know, though, through NBC News reporting is that there are a lot of questions about his conduct and generally his trustworthiness. This is somebody who worked at 6 different departments within 4 years. We know that. We also know that he has a record of DUIs, that he had been sort of written up by past supervisors for poor conduct or not being truthful. And so that is the kind of thing that, especially now as this escalates toward a potential trial and a continued investigation of his actions, that's going to be a major question here.
Yeah, we know there were questions about the vetting process to even hire someone like him. Now that these field reports have been released, what's next in the investigation?
Well, there's a few things going on in this investigation. There is, of course, going to be the preparation for a trial. Prosecutors are going to try to build a case about him, and they've already made very clear, both his former bosses in the sheriff's department and leaders through the state, saying that they feel that this was excessive and absolutely not part of his training and what he was supposed to do. He's, of course, been fired. He's pleading not guilty to first-degree murder and to other misconduct charges. But there's also a bigger piece here about the culture of policing that we're seeing people dig into. For example, that piece about him working at so many departments in such a short amount of time. How did he actually get hired here? Why wasn't that a red flag that prevented him from becoming a deputy? That's the other side of the story that people are going to keep digging into.
A lot of questions still there. Antonia Hilton, thank you. And newly released surveillance video shows the final moments of a black man outside a Milwaukee hotel. Devontae Mitchell was pinned to the ground by security guards outside a Hyatt Regency in June. The medical examiner has officially ruled his death a homicide. NBC News correspondent Adrian Broaddus has more on this new video and the growing calls for justice, and a warning: some of the footage is graphic.
Valerie, indeed, this video is challenging to watch. At one point, we see a former employee dragging Devontae Mitchell through a pair of doors. Then we see someone with their fists closed punching Mitchell in the face repeatedly. And that's not all. They also kick him. At one point, Mitchell tries to get up as his pants are falling down. He tries to run away, but he can't. This video was released right around the same time the medical examiner ruled the cause of death is homicide due to restraint asphyxia and toxic effects of cocaine and methamphetamine. No arrests have been made. Those employees have been fired. But for those who have been following this story, you may remember the district attorney told us last month they were waiting for the autopsy report to determine whether or not they would file charges against the people you see in that video. Well, now that the report is out, we reached out to the district attorney for a status update, but they have not told us yet what their plan is moving forward. I spoke with an attorney representing Mitchell's family. he's not satisfied. Take a listen.
We believe murder charges should be issued here, but we don't even have a battery charge. It is truly astounding that this can happen in 2024, but it's only happening because of who they believe Mr. Mitchell is, and we don't do that in this country. We have equal protection of the laws, and he's not getting that justice right now.
And that was William Sultan. He represents the family. He also told me he's pushing for a public inquest or a grand jury. He says he doesn't have confidence that the district attorney is prepared to file charges in this case. Back to you.
All right, Adrienne, thank you. Coming up, going for gold, the U.S. artistic swimming team is back in the Olympics for the first time in nearly 2 decades. One of the key team members tells us about her journey to get to Paris. But first, you got to see this. With no AC, cardboard beds, and crowded rooms, some athletes are complaining about the Olympic Village. And for one Italian swimmer, even the grass might be better. Thomas Chacon was caught napping in a park near the living quarters. The TikTok video was posted Saturday afternoon, just a few days after he failed to make the cut for the finals in the men's 200-meter backstroke. He spoke to Italian media last week, saying the hot, cramped rooms make life in the Olympic Village tough. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Let's take a quick look around the world. Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina quit and fled the country in a helicopter. That's what the country's military is saying. She apparently did so as protesters stormed her residence and set fire to government offices. Her resignation comes after weeks of violent protests in which about 100 people were killed. The Japanese stock market fell today more than 10%, suffering its worst losses in 37 years. It was just one of the effects of the global sell-off experienced today, which were made worse by concerns that the U.S. economy may be weaker than previously thought. Analysts are watching closely to see how markets and the Bank of Japan will react. At least 4 people are dead and more than 20 others are missing after a flash flood and landslide hit southwestern China. Recent storms, according to local reports, have killed more than 100 people in China since June and forced around 100,000 people to evacuate. Ukrainian pilots have started flying U.S.-made F-16 fighter jets. President Vladimir Zelensky announced that this is a significant milestone in their defense against Russia. Zelensky praised the pilots and called for more jets and training. We're following breaking news tonight from the Middle East. A U.S. defense official tells NBC News that a pair of rockets were fired at Al Asad Air Base in Iraq today, hurting several Americans. At least one of the rockets landed on the base, which houses U.S. and coalition forces. Meanwhile, Israel is preparing for an attack from Iran and Hezbollah after the assassination of a Hamas leader in Tehran last week. Here's U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken earlier today.
All parties must refrain from escalation. All parties must take steps to ease tensions. Escalation is not in anyone's interests.
NBC's Ellison Barber reporting tonight from Tel Aviv. Hi, Ellison.
Israeli officials are telling NBC News right now they think this attack will be a multi-day event and that it will come in waves, with both Hezbollah and Iran attacking Israel. They say they expect Hezbollah to fire rockets across the northern border into Israel, and that longer-range missiles and drones will come from the east, from Iran, towards Israel. Everybody here is sort of bracing, waiting to see when this will happen. No one doubts that it will happen. The language from Iran has been so strong, from the supreme leader to members of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. They say again and again that they believe the death of Hamas's political leader Ismail Haniyeh inside of Iran, in Tehran, that the fact that it happened on their territory means it is their duty to extract revenge. And they say they plan to carry that out. But exactly how big it will be, exactly when it will come, what every little piece will look like, that's something people don't know. But Israelis have been told repeatedly to make sure they have their shelters cleared out, water in it, and that they are ready in the event. They need to spend hours or even days in that shelter. We've seen a flurry of diplomatic efforts in the region trying to prevent further escalation, from the commander of CENTCOM being in Israel today to meet with his counterparts and other IDF leaders, to Secretary of State Antony Blinken having conversations with other G7 ministers about how they could possibly prevent this situation from escalating even further. As all of this is happening, another thing that we are watching is a strike that took place on Al-Assad base in Iraq. According to defense officials who were speaking to NBC News, they say 2 rockets were launched towards that base, at least 2 rockets. They say at least one of those hit the base. Right now, they are saying they suspect this was carried out by Iranian-backed militia members. They also say initial indications suggest several U.S. personnel have been injured. But it is important to note that as far as we know, nothing about that strike on the base in Iraq appears to be connected or suggests that this is a part of a broader attack or Iran's response that we are anticipating. This is a base that has been struck by Iranian-backed militia in the past, most recently about 2 weeks ago. But that's another layer that's adding to the confusion, the chaos, and the nerves here as people just wait to see what happens next.
All right, Ellison Barber, thank you. The UK is on edge after a weekend of violent protests that was brought on by a disinformation campaign aimed at immigrants and Muslims. The violence comes after a stabbing attack that killed 3 young girls near Liverpool. The suspect was born and raised in the UK, but rumors quickly spread that he was an undocumented immigrant. NBC News international correspondent Josh Letterman has the latest.
Prime Minister Keir Starmer says he will deploy a standing army of specialized police officers to respond to this violence that has erupted across the UK. He says the full force of the law will be brought to bear to try to bring this under control. Those comments coming as these riots are entering their 2nd week, with protesters, some of them associated with the far right, setting fire to cars, setting fires to buildings, including a hotel known for housing asylum seekers. Now, the immediate cause for this latest round of violence appears to have been this mass stabbing incident last week that killed 3 young girls. In the hours after that stabbing, disinformation was spread on social media claiming that the suspect had entered the UK illegally. Now, that was not true. The police now say he was a 17-year-old who was born here in the UK, but it went viral and has now become a pretext for these riots, many of them against Muslims, against immigrants, that we're seeing in city after city after city. The British government trying to bring this under control, trying to reassure people that this is still a welcoming country for immigrants, with new efforts underway to try to clean up the damage and the debris, as well as to make sure that these protests do not last any longer.
All right, Josh, thank you. Still ahead tonight, California's park fires still nowhere near fully contained. Why conditions facing crews could get even more dangerous in the days ahead. Welcome back. Here are some stories out west that we're following. In Arizona, the Senate debate is 2 months away, but Republican candidate Carrie Lake and her Democratic opponent Ruben Gallego can't agree on how it should be run. Lake is skeptical of the organization behind the debate and now wants a different group to host it. In Compton, California, jurors heard closing arguments in the trial for rapper PNB Rock's murder. Prosecutors say Freddie Trone sent his son to kill the hip-hop star at a restaurant in L.A. 2 years ago. But Trone insists he had nothing to do with the killing and that his son acted alone. The father took to the stand Friday and wrapped up his testimony today. The L.A. Police Department just released surveillance video stills of the suspects involved in Johnny Wachter's killing. In one photo, there are 3 people near a black sedan police say was used to get away from the scene. Police are still working to identify them. The General Hospital actor was shot in May after trying to stop someone from stealing his car's catalytic converter. There is a fire burning in California right now that has destroyed an area half the size of Rhode Island. And with hotter and drier weather around the corner, things could get even worse.
Rapid rate of spread in the area of Upper Park Road and Wildwood Avenue in the Chico MTZ.
I've never seen a fire grow that fast. It burned 150,000 acres in 24 hours.
The Park Fire, which is burning around 90 miles north of Sacramento, is now the fourth largest wildfire in California history. At last check, just over a third of the fire was considered contained. Almost 700 structures have been destroyed. Keep in mind, California is in the grips of a wildfire emergency. Nearly 800,000 acres have already burned this year. That is more than 5 times the average from the last 5 years during the same time period. NBC's Dana Griffin joins me now from the Los Angeles Bureau. Dana, with dangerous conditions this week, what is the strategy on the ground to continue making progress?
Yeah, Valerie, they have to adjust that strategy depending on where the fire is burning. So this is covering 4 different counties, some close to nearly 404,000 acres at this hour. So in some areas, they were able to fight it directly with firefighters, helicopter drops, trying to put out those flames. But in some areas, CAL FIRE tells me that they've actually created fire breaks so that the fire that is burning in this difficult, rugged terrain can actually burn up and meet that fire break so that it kind of stays in place. And that's pretty much the strategy right now. There has been a slight increase in containment, about 34% containment. Some evacuation orders have been downgraded to warnings, and some warnings have been lifted altogether. This is really concerning for people who are in that area because some 600 plus structures have burned. And right now, officials are warning people that have been allowed to go back to those areas to be careful, especially not to disturb some of the soil because it can contain hazardous materials. So they are warning people to limit their time in those areas and so that fire crews can get a handle on the rest of this fire. Valerie?
Dana, I imagine those fire crews are fighting some exhaustion. At this point, are they bringing in firefighters and resources from outside California?
So I asked that question earlier today. CAL FIRE says that they actually brought in those resources over the weekend. They've got some 6,000 plus personnel helping to battle this flame, and it includes firefighters from Texas, Utah. They've also brought in the National Guard. They tell me they've got about 100 crew members on the ground as we currently speak. And it's important to have that extra mutual aid because we're getting another California heat wave, the high expected to get up to 105 degrees tomorrow. So this is only adding to the critical fire conditions out there on the ground. And if fire officials are trying to get this under control, they're going to need all the manpower that can come their way. Valerie?
All right, Dana Griffin, thank you for your reporting. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has recently made a shocking confession, but it's not related to his current White House bid. Rather, he revealed he dumped a dead bear cub in New York's Central Park 10 years ago. NBC's Yasmin Vesuvian has more.
Valerie, it's this bizarre story. RFK Jr. putting out this post just yesterday, wanting to get ahead of this New Yorker piece that was released early this morning. It's this extensive piece laying out RFK Jr.'s life over the last how many decades, and anecdotally includes this story of this baby bear cub. So let me walk you through what happened. 10 years or so ago, RFK Jr. was driving in upstate New York in the Hudson Valley. He was going falconing, something that he is very passionate about. They talk about it in the New Yorker piece. He sees this bear cub on the road that had been hit by a car. He says, let me pick this thing up and put it in the back of my car. I'm going to skin it, take the meat, put it in my freezer. He goes about his day, gets caught up, then realizes he has a dinner in the city, goes to his steak dinner in the city, then realizes he has to get on a flight, but he's got this carcass in the back of his car. He doesn't know what to do with it. He can't leave a dead carcass in the back of his car. He says, let me put it in Central Park. I have this old bike. I'll make it seem as if someone on a bike hit a baby bear cub, hid it in Central Park. The next day, 2 folks out for a walk, a dog walk, 2 women, they discover this baby bear cub inside Central Park, lying underneath this bicycle. For 10 years, this mystery went unsolved. Investigators had figured out that it didn't happen in Central Park. They'd also figured out it was hit by a car. It was obviously moved to Central Park from somewhere else, but they didn't know who actually placed the bear carcass there. Now they know it's RFK Jr. All of this in an effort on RFK Jr.'s part to get ahead of the story being released by The New Yorker, which details 14 years of a drug addiction, the suicide of his second wife as well, along with including this anecdote about the bear cub. Just talking about political things here for a moment. Third-party candidate running as an independent, polling at around 5%. Certain states standing out here, Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, Wisconsin as well, especially amongst young voters and Latino voters. So certainly RFK Jr. wanting to get ahead of some of the press coming out from this New Yorker article. Valerie.
All right, Yasmin, thank you. Before we go tonight, it's time for the future of everything. Trying to harness wind for energy isn't a new idea. Researchers in Maine are testing out the next generation that's ahead in the future of energy. And diving into the deep end of artistic swimming, what you need to know about the creation and execution of the complicated routines, and what Team USA is saying about getting back to the games for the first time in 16 years. Welcome back. In tonight's Future of Everything, we're talking about wind, how to better turn it into energy, that is. Did you know that 2/3 of potential U.S. wind energy is out in the open ocean? We're talking way out where the seafloor is too deep to build fixed wind turbines. There's an effort underway in Maine to change all of that. NBC's Maura Barrett went to check it out.
This wave pool might look like something on a Hollywood film set, but it's actually being used by researchers to develop wind turbines capable of capturing strong winds off the coast of Maine.
We started working on offshore wind in the state of Maine close to about 17 years ago. Just to give you a sense, if we harness just about 3% of the offshore wind resource within 50 miles in the Gulf of Maine, we can heat every home and drive every car. Just 3%.
Every single home.
Yeah, exactly.
But because the seafloor drastically dips, wind turbines can't be bolted to the bottom of the ocean. So, Dr. Habib Dagher leads a team of engineers working to create cutting-edge floating technology that's capable of sitting on the surface of the ocean, even where the seafloor is 150 feet deep.
What you see behind you is what we call a semi-submersible. It's 3 stabilization pontoons. So when the wind blows, those pontoons basically give it the stability to keep it from just toppling over.
This is a scaled-down version. The real one will be 70 times bigger, and just a single turn of one of those turbines can generate enough energy to power a home for at least a day. Now it's time for the stress tests. This 100-foot-long, 15-foot-deep wave pool mimics the strong winds and waves the turbines would encounter during the worst storms.
You could see the waves have gotten bigger.
Right.
The wind, you could feel the wind coming in right now.
They're even big just for us to look at.
Exactly.
If it's hard to imagine these waves in real life, take a look at this little guy. He represents a 6-foot man standing at the base of a turbine that's around 800 feet tall.
Even in an extreme storm like that, it's staying fairly stable.
Right.
Which is really what this design is supposed to do.
About 80% of Americans live within 200 miles of the coast, making a case for offshore wind's access to affordable and reliable power. But despite that, some people are concerned about investing in offshore wind infrastructure.
Does this make any sense at all to spend this much money, this much effort on a technology that's expensive where we don't know all the answers?
Absolutely not. The answer is just a flat no.
Dr. Dagher, on the other hand, has no doubts that this renewable energy technology is worth it.
The new generation wants renewable energy. The new generation wants a cleaner environment because the new generation has to live in a world that otherwise would be much more difficult to live in because of climate change. The sun's always going to shine and the wind's always going to blow. I'm very hopeful that regardless of where the policy takes us, we're going to get there.
Maura Barrett, NBC News, Bangor, Maine.
Before we go, let's head over to Paris to check in on the Olympic Games. The U.S. remains on top with a dominant 78 total medals as China takes second place with 53. In the gold medal count, China is still ahead of the U.S. Simone Biles made headlines today without winning gold. She and Jordan Childs bowed down to Brazil's Rebecca Andrade on the podium after the women's floor exercise final. She took gold, Biles took the silver, and Childs the bronze. Likely a moment we'll remember from these games. And speaking of Olympic history, for the first time in 16 years, Team USA competed in artistic swimming at the Games. Here they are during today's technical routine. The sport, once known as synchronized swimming, thrives on teamwork and camaraderie. Our friends from Stay Tuned show us more.
My name is Megumi Field. My sport is artistic swimming.
2024 marked the first time a U.S. artistic swimming team qualified for the Olympics since 2008. Back then, Megumi was just a toddler, and it was still called synchronized swimming.
I think artistic swimming combines a lot of different sports like gymnastics, dance, ballet, speed swimming, even diving.
There's a lot of moving parts to this sport, but there are 5 moves every fan should know.
Good guys, better and better. There's the fouette. And then there's one called the butterfly. And then we have 2 thrust elements. The last element, we call it the tornado. All choreography is done in the water, just because you can't really tell if something's gonna work on land. And then once we do have that choreo, we go through the routine with your hands on land just to synchronize better.
8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. 3, 4, 5, 7. 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 1.
The competition is broken into 2 events, duet and team. And within each event, there are multiple routines.
In the free routine, it's a little longer. There are 7 hybrids. It's full creativity. In tech, everyone has to do the same thing. If you don't, you can get penalized for that. All countries do the same technical elements. The technical and the free routine, the theme and the music has been the same for about 3 years now.
The 2024 games will be the first that require the team events to include acrobatic routines.
In an acrobatic routine, all that's being scored is the 7 lifts that are required.
Can we do it just one more time? One more time.
Megumi has been doing artistic swimming since she was 5. As a child, she traveled from Delaware to Pennsylvania every day to be part of a synchronized swimming club.
I mean, I always loved the water, but just the swimming back and forth just wasn't cutting it for me. Now you're always learning a different skill that you weren't able to do before. It was exciting for me, so I fell in love. But now, I love the team unity that it requires and the connection and the bond that you form with your teammates.
Teammates that range in age from 17 to 45. So at 18, she's one of the youngest.
As much as it is physical, it's also very much mental. We're not breathing, everything might feel hard, but at a competition, all that needs to happen is that someone slightly bends on the corner or slightly goes, out of the angle. And so it's a lot of pressure.
Megumi says the team aspect of her sport can help alleviate that pressure. And right now, she's just excited.
I remember when I watched the Olympics and when I decided I wanted to go to the Olympics that I really wanted to get the U.S. back to the Olympics. And so actually being here and being in this moment where that's become a reality is just, I'm still processing. I don't believe it.
That takes some skill. That does it for us tonight. I'm Valerie Castro. We'll see you tomorrow, but until then, stay tuned now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.